Alright, hello. For the sake of saving your and my time, this video will be fully recorded in the simulacrum, so be aware of that. And to answer the title of this video right away, in case you're wondering, it's these Talfor's purple shards. By the end of the video, you will get your answer if these are worth building, which in my opinion they are, and you will also see a handful of melee weapons, how their performance is like against level 220 simulacrum enemies that are very, very tanky. So, without further ado, let's begin. First of all, the Wisp Build itself. I have 3 Wisp Builds in this one, where 2 of them are really more for fun build type of thing, and the third build is really where it's at with the Wrathful Advance buff. So, this is a normal build. Wisp is one of the frames that is extremely safe with her second ability, so you can easily just press 2 and start milling people around for 7 seconds without any issues whatsoever. So this build without any kind of defenses should be easily survivable even without any kind of defenses, just because you are on Wisp, which is pretty great. Now, there is a small thing about the aura here. I know that corrosive projection isn't the best, and that you would easily want Ready Steel for some of the weapons that you heavy attack with, or Growing Power for some of the ability strength that might be very useful for your first and fourth abilities. Now, I would do that, but I don't have an aura format this time. It should be... I should be getting one from the dev stream that is going this Friday, so tomorrow, one day after this video is uploaded. And yeah, it should be finished, but you know, this is the build. Now for the weapons, I have tested a handful of weapons. So I own all of these melee weapons right here. All of them have Forma, most of them have Ravens. They are all really, really strong with this one. I'm going to show you a few examples of some weapons that are popular, some more that are less popular, and some that are completely broken and outright stupid with this build. And if you're going to watch this until the end, you're not going to regret it, because some of the weapons look completely ridiculous and they feel like they're bugged, even though they're not. So let's begin. The first thing we're going to look at is, first of all, like, as I click on these weapons, you're going to see the critical damage is already really, really high. 10.7, 13.5, 11.6, 10.7, 12.6. It's already bonkers. And this is because this is the crit damage of the weapon without any critical damage mods because of your purple shards. Makes it extremely, extremely good. So, let's start with a classic, the Xoris. This glaive is a high damage crit based glaive with a ton of range. Raven is a Raven that used to be really, really good with the previous modes of Corrupt Charge. Now the initial combo is not needed anymore, so this is a bit subpar, but it will do, and it will do great. And if you want to replace it, obviously go for something like Gladiator Might or Organ Shatter. Or no, Organ Shatter is here, so Gladiator Might. So, we're going to show this, and every weapon against level 210 Heavy Gunner Eximus. These are the highest that I can go. And the Xoris, without Wrathful Advance or anything, before the stacks, looks like this, which, you know, is kind of standard. And then after you stack it, and with melee influence on, looks like this, which is also pretty standard. Now, with Wrathful Advance on top of that, adding all the extra crit and having all those crit multipliers, something like this will happen, and it looks great. So, you know, pretty satisfying, but definitely not the best. This is just the baseline to see how strong a build like this can get, especially when using something like glaives. But I think there are way, way more interesting things to look on, especially when we're talking about weapons that can abuse heavy attacks. And one of these weapons would be the Corufell. The Corufell is a fan favorite weapon, in my opinion, and it is a weapon that feels really, really good to use, has an amazing heavy attack on the Altfire, and I got this Riven, which is pretty decent, but it didn't make a huge difference in my damage numbers, sadly. So I'll have to roll it again, but regardless, this is what the Corufell does. So this is without any stacks or anything, just shooting it, pretty good. You know, some 8 mil there, 19 mil, 27 million. And obviously when we add Wrathful Advance, and if I let this guy, you know, prime the enemies, this Panzer Vulpaphyla, it will get really crazy. So I'll let him attack the rest real quick. I did 1.3 billion, I think, on some of these people, but yeah. So this guy, yeah, I think that's billions of damage right there. But yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is pretty crazy. It goes pretty nuts, and you know, I had the arcane that I didn't even max, so this can get even crazier potentially, and it can also get even crazier if I decide to, you know, prime these people with my other weapons. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So yeah, that's Corufell. You know, a lot of people will like this type of setup, and I think as a room clearing setup is really good. But a lot of other people, and the other fun favorite weapon that I'm gonna show, because it gets crazy with this build, is the Magistar. The Magistar is an infamous weapon that if you actually buff the hell out of it, it can become extremely good. And that is because it is the only weapon in the game except the Titron with max stacks that can reach a slam radius of 20 meters. The only weapon that can also slam with 20-meter radius is the Arca Titron when the stacks of its passive are maxed out. And only then. The difference between this and the Titron, however, is that the Titron has way more damage than this. But because of the Tau Forge purple shards, this can actually one-shot now, even before any of the stacks or anything, which makes it pretty ridiculous. Yeah. So that's Magistar. The Magistar build used is this. I have a Grenier, Corpus, Infested, Corrupted, and Murmur builds for everything. And this mod is replacing Organ Shatter. So if you don't have a Riven mod, just put Organ Shatter here. And if you have the 5 Tau 4 stars, the results are gonna be really similar, because the Riven mod here does not account for something that is using Wrathful Advance. If you use this build with Wrathful Advance and you use this, then this Riven doesn't matter too much besides the initial combo. This crit chance is kind of placebo. It does help, but it's really kind of placebo. So, you know, pretty cool stuff. I'll hover over the builds again a bit slower so you guys can see and copy them in case you want to fight any kind of faction you want to fight, just like I did. These are pretty maxed out, all of them. So really good. And yeah, the Magistar with this build is a pretty solid weapon. Now Titron compared to the Magistar will do more damage. I've hit around 300 million with the Magistar, but I've hit over 1.6 billion with the Titron. It's not even close, not even a comparison. The damage of the Titron is just something that the Magistar will never reach, no matter what. But let's talk about some less used weapons, and some weapons that you may not see all the time. The Verdilac. The Verdilac is Naira's whip, and it has a unique combo, in case you don't know, that if you block and hit them enemies, you will throw these little balls. These balls deal 100% toxin damage, so, you know, it's translated to viral here because I have built for viral, and they have multiplicative CO and some other interesting priorities. However, you're gonna see that I'm not even using multiplicative CO, simply because it's not needed. With this Riven right here, which as you can see is highly rolled, but it's not great, because of the purple Archon shards and a 19.1x crit multiplier, by the way, this weapon gets incredibly crazy while being used with this Wisp. Now, as you can see, the damages of this fire can go nuts with millions of damage. Also, the heavy attack deals guaranteed slash proc in case somebody survives, but nobody really survives this. This sweep, I usually do not use it. I was not really a fan of it, and then I tried it with this build, and I got some, you know, pretty crazy stuff. At some point on stream, when I tested melee influence with this, I went onto this group of enemies, I slide attacked them, and they just died. Which is really nice, in my opinion. Now you see, the heavy attack dealt 129 million, and that was without Wrathful Advance. And I think that's pretty clear evidence that Condition Overload, for some reason, is not really needed on this. I'm not sure even if it's better, because I tried it, and I will try it right now, because, you know, you might be curious. It doesn't actually make big difference. And I'm not sure why. Enemies die pretty much the same to this. And it's maybe even a bit less damage. It's not really any difference. And yeah, I'm not sure why. But I just stuck with Prime Pressure Point. In theory, Condition Overload should always be better, but for some reason it didn't feel like that. So I kept Prime Pressure Point. It's all a type of feeling on this one, 100%. So you can not follow, you can just follow the Condition Overload path of this build, you know, do whatever you want. It's your game, your build. You don't have to optimize everything as much as I did, but if you want the damage that I can do, then it's highly recommended. Up next, I'm not gonna use it, but I'm just gonna show that the war that I have with this Riven has a 20 times crit multiplier, which I found very funny for a war to have, because I sent the screenshots to my Discord on this, and trust me, when you see these stats on a weapon, it's not really easy to figure out what type of weapon it is, or what weapon it is, for the sake of it. So I just wanted to show that. But up for the next weapon is a different heavy blade, not the war. This one is the Exec. Now the Exec I've featured many times on this channel. It's one of my favorite weapons, and it is because it is the only slam weapon that has interesting properties. It is the only slam weapon I find really cool to use. And as you can see, this build has gas. It's not really focused around dealing much straight up damage. It's gas. I'm not sure why it's animosity here. It should be exposure. But, you know, it still is gas damage exact, which isn't so great. But you're gonna see that the results say otherwise. So if we slam attack with this and heavy attack, holy, that is a lot of 40 million. That is, you know, it's beautiful. I mean, what can I say? It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. I never expected the Exec to be able to do this much because of these Archon shots. It is really insane. Now, obviously the Magistar is probably better, because Magistar can also hit behind you, but if you have enemies in front of you, this can hit enemies in front of you multiple times. The Exec is great against damage attenuation, so if you're fighting a boss like the one you fight to unlock Kome on Saya's Visions mission on Steel Path, the only weapon that I was managing to one-shot that creature with the Zephyr Tornadoes was the Exec, because it hit Zephyr Tornadoes and the creature multiple times, so there were like, let's say 70 instances of damage in one, because, you know, Zephyr Tornadoes are Zephyr Tornadoes. It's really funny. But this also means that the Exec is an excellent choice for anything that has damage attenuation and you're using melee. So Necromex, for example, this weapon will absolutely shred. Really cool weapon. I featured this twice in my channel, and a third time, you know, it wouldn't hurt, I felt. I'm also going to show the dual Ichor, not because it is anything too fancy, but because 23.4x multiplier. Now, this Riven is pretty catastrophic. Normally, it would be amazing, but the minus status duration hurts the clouds quite a bit from doing their work, but the upfront damage is still there. So the upfront damage is going to be what we're showcasing here. It's very sad that this minus status duration is ruining this Riven. However, the damage, as you can see, it's still 100% there. These enemies will get absolutely one-tap before the encounter can even activate. So on the next turn, okay. Now we activate encounter, and we have the clouds. So if I spawn these enemies with the clouds up, you see, we can deal some damage to them, but the Vara proc we're getting is instantly worn out, sadly. Which is pretty bad. which means we have to rely on other sources to prime our enemies when I do this with my Riven at least. And this is why you have to be careful with status duration Rivens in general, and especially on melee weapons or any guns that use CO very, very well. But Dual Ichor is still an amazing weapon and will absolutely shred any enemies they might fight. But yeah, it was really good. Now let's show some of the bigger guns, in my opinion. We're first gonna start with something that you probably kind of expected. Dual Zoren Prime. Our newest Prime weapon. Obviously, I don't have a Riven for this, you know. So you get a Riven-less build, which some people appreciate. I don't have an Exilus adapter on this to put Tenokai on, but I don't think it matters. What you want to see is this 21.2x multiplier. I think that's what you want to see. Also, this build could have been better, 100%, if I could fit Organ Charter. Or wait, isn't it Organ Charter? I don't know, something different than Carnage Mandible anyway. Probably attack speed, right? Attack speed would probably be the best choice. But regardless, I didn't have the format. This comes with 2 dash polarities here, so you know, I didn't go ahead and spend more time onto this, and it still absolutely slaps as you're about to see. So let's go without Raffle on this one. This is using Affliction, so the moment there is one knockdown or knockup, these enemies get absolutely shredded by slash procs, and they get completely destroyed. As you can see, that guy got one tap before even any damage happened, so you know, it's all really, really cool. And this is obviously before Wrathful Advance. If we add Wrathful Advance, we're gonna see more one-shots, more chaos, more, you know, of whatever this is. The slash procs everywhere, triple digits, just, yeah. Really, really good. Dual Zoren, although its passive feels kind of lackluster, because sometimes it simply doesn't happen. If you slide attack too quickly, you might not even get it. But even if you get it, it's not that strong. Like, yeah, it looks cool, but I wish it kind of scaled with movement speed, parkour speed, something like that. And sometimes if I have too much attack speed, it simply doesn't even happen. But, you know, regardless, this has a 3.4x crit multiplier. It's the highest crit multiplier weapon in the entire game by 0.4x, so I had to... or melee weapon, sorry, not weapon in general, that's a nuker, but, you know, I had to test it. I had to showcase it with these valid Archon swords. And it's our new prime weapon as well. I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate that. Up next, this is the one that I really, really like, and it is right here. Tekko Prime. I will never understand why the Tekko Prime does so much damage. Yes, I do have a good Riven on the Tekko Prime, okay? Obviously, I will have a good Riven on it. But it just does too much damage. It really does too much damage, and I really don't get it. These fists are just crazy. You may say, oh, but you're using Wrathful. Well, I'll let Wrathful run out. I don't care. It's like the same thing. 37 million. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. The Tekko is just crazy. I'm not sure why. Actually, I know why. I found out why. If you check the stance, because stances matter a lot for melee weapons, and I will make a melee weapon video specific to showcase which stances are the best per melee category, and which weapons are best per melee category as well, because, you know, at some point you guys were asking for top 10 melee weapons, and I think instead of top 10 melee weapons, because it's really hard to just, you know, classify what is top 10 and what isn't. I'll just classify what is the best in each clash, while also showing you what's the best stance. And look at this. Yaya's Tragedy gives you many attacks that are either 300% of the weapon's attack damage or 400% of the weapon's attack damage. While normally, most of the combos would look like this, 100 to 200%, 300% at most for one attack. This is filled with 300 and 400% attacks on both of these, combos. And that is why it deals so much damage. And yeah, it's really, really crazy because of this. This is what makes it so unbelievably strong. I was completely unaware for the longest time why the Tekko was dealing that much damage, but it really is one of the pinnacles of melee weapons. And if you really like melee weapons as melee weapons and not destroying them or heavy attacking or whatever, Tekko could be right up your alley. I mean, look at this. It is ridiculous. It is truly ridiculous. Yeah, it something is cooking with these. These are pretty cook, and I'm pretty sure if you search right now, you might find Ravens cheap for them. I hope that stays that way, because usually after I upload videos of weapons, Raven prices tend to go up, but hopefully this one is gonna stay the same. Now for the next one that I'm gonna show, I think I'm gonna go to something that probably not many people expected. You see the Panzer Prime here. I'm not gonna use that, but I'm gonna show that I have reached over 44x multiplier if we add Dodi and 12x combo multiplier, which is really fun. It sadly wasn't that good, even though this has guaranteed slash, but overall it did okay. I don't know why the Streza has this though. It is one of the only weapons I've ever seen that a stance mode lowers the damage of its attacks than increasing it, which is pretty weird. But its block combos were absolutely sick, not gonna lie. Like these two block combos, they are absolutely sick. Regardless, 40x critical damage. You can do that. Ceramic Dagger, I've reached 56 times critical damage, and that was without using any Raven mode, and it was on this build. After adding up, all of the combo counter stuff, Melee Dodi and Galvanized Steel, 56x critical damage, 56 times your damage per critical hit. Pair that with Wrathful Advance, and it did a lot of damage. Yeah, obviously. How will it not do a lot of damage? 56 times. And, obviously if you have a Riven, especially if you have a Riven that takes away the impact, yeah, that's gonna go crazy. Of course, it's gonna go nuts. But, I don't have that. I cannot showcase that, sadly. And maybe someone else can. And I hope they will. But, the one that I will showcase, however, the one that I will showcase is the Balla. This was such a surprise weapon to me, because I only built it because I checked Raven prices for this weapon on Warframe market, and I saw 50 plat for the cheapest one. So I was like, maybe something weird is happening here. Now, I tried Melee Dodi, and I also tried Melee Influence. And I can say that with Melee Dodi, it was quite funny seeing that 18.8 crit multiplier and going up to like 30 to 40. And because of Stinging Thrones having quite a bit of slash attacks on its base combo, it was not actually bad. It's pretty decent. I wish I could put Primed Reach, and if I did put Primed Reach here, I would lose a lot of damage, but in hindsight, I am not really sure where I could put Primed Reach here. Maybe I could forgo Melee Dodi and go for Melee Duplicate and put it here, but overall, I didn't think it will matter, because Exodia Force, what does this scale with? Well, Melee Influence. Because this just says on status effect. It doesn't matter where the status effect is. It just says on status effect. So, with Melee Influence, Exodia Force procs over and over and over. It will proc 30, 40 times, 50 times in a single combo. It's ridiculous. And this is why it is so strong. Now, the thing about the Balla, though, is that we don't have any crit chance. This would need a Wrathful Advance buff to become very useful. But, you know, it's pretty good. Not the most impressive thing I've seen, but there is a lot of procs of that Exodia Force Arcane, and it does a lot of damage. But you know, that is mainly because of Wrathful Advance and the purple Archon Shards buffing the hell out of it. But yes, it is a lot of damage, and it is very, very nice. Now I'm gonna wait for Wrathful Advance to go out so you can see what it looks like without. It's still very, very strong. So, you know, a very formidable weapon that I didn't expect to see perform that well. And now I kind of understand why Rivens are so expensive. Because if my Riven mode wasn't like this, and my Riven mode was more focused on what is actually important, which would be range and status chance, something like that. You know, mainly range. Mainly range would be what we would need. And it would go absolutely nuts. But this is still an incredibly, incredibly strong weapon. But the last weapon we're gonna show, and the weapon that I went completely nuts, I was losing it on stream when I saw this. Innodem. Let me get this straight, okay? I open Warframe Market right now. This is not a drill. This is not a drill, okay? So, Warframe Market right now. Look. Oh, I gotta unbug it. Hold up. 15 platinum unrolled and then a bunch of 20s. I have absolutely zero clue on how this weapon has gone under the radar for so long. This might be top 3 best melee weapons in the game, hands down. It's like, you know, you may say Nami Solo, you may say Okina. It doesn't matter to me. I'll show you why. You may be like, no, you're crazy. But look, this is the Riven mode. It's not something spectacular. I only pretty much cared about how much range I got on the Riven. And the moment I saw a high range stat with 2+ and 1-, I took it. The other stats don't matter at all. As long as I didn't get something like minus critical damage, it doesn't matter. Right? Perfect. Now, 2 builds. A normal melee build and a melee influence build. Now, why is this weapon so unbelievably broken? Well, first of all, follow-through. If you've been a viewer of mine, you will know that follow-through is probably the most underlooked melee stat in the entire game. And this is the stat that determines how much damage your melee weapon will do across a big area and across a multitude of enemies. So if you have any grouping abilities, or if you have a large enemy density area, then this is the stat that you care about the most out of any melee weapon. This is also why a lot of people praise the Nami Solo for what it is. Because the Nami Solo, guess what? It has 100% follow-through. Meaning that hitting multiple enemies does not even lower your damage one bit. But 90% follow-through is also absolutely amazing. However, what the Nami Solo lacks, compared to the Innodem, is range. I don't know if you see, but I have almost 7 meters of range on my own. Which, guess what? On the Innodem, it gets even crazier, because once you activate the Incarnon, you get an extra 3 meters of range. And then with Opportunity's Reach, you get another 3 meters of range. So let me get this straight. 90% follow through, 13 meters range. This is a dagger, by the way. That is the funniest part. Now, you may be like, okay, but the damage cannot be that good, right? Well, this is without Wrathful Advance, by the way. Yeah. What happens if I activate Wrathful Advance? I'm just hitting him behind me. Yeah. And obviously, as I said, this has a lot of range, so... I don't know, you tell me, is this ridiculous or is this ridiculous? I think it's ridiculous. But wait, there is more. As I said, there is also a melee influence build. Because obviously, what is the best thing for melee influence? Well, follow through and a lot of range. What do we have? Follow through and crazy range. So let's see what melee influence looks like on this weapon. I'm gonna first stack it without Wrathful Advance to try and get the Impermanent activation. Which thankfully I did. And we saw a lot of damage there already. And now we're gonna see what this does. So, I'm gonna do Wrathful Advance. I'm gonna hit E once. Yep. That is what happens. It's not a joke. This isn't a bug. This is a real thing. It looks like a bug. It genuinely looks like a bug. It doesn't look real. But it happens every single freaking time. Every single time. Melee influence was down. I procced it and then they died instantly. And you may be like, okay, but what if without Wrathful Advance? It's the same thing. The same thing. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Why are people sleeping on this weapon? I've never seen anything like this. Okay? I've seen things. I've seen Magistar slams. I've seen stupid shit. I've seen a lot of things. I've never seen literal one hits on this. This is reminding me of old melee where you just slide attack all of the enemies through walls with the Skoliak and all that. Like, holy, it's dumb. It's dumb. How? I tested all of my weapons. Look how many weapons I have. I tested all of them. Literally all of them. 1-to-1. Format a lot of them. Just try to maximize as much as possible for this build. Nothing even came close to what the frick the Innodem is doing. Like, this is so dumb. Yes, we have Corufell dealing billions of damage. We have this dealing billions of damage. This, you literally hit someone and 1,000 people die around you. It's dumb. It's dumb. So yeah, small recap. 5 Talforge melee critical damage swords. When max energy is over 500, which happens because we're using Prime Flow. And, you know, if you don't have Prime Flow, normal flow works for Wisp, thankfully. But Prime Flow will help with your possible energy issues as well. Because this build is a bit energy hungry. Speaking of which, if you are not bored of using a energy pad the moment you start the mission, then do so and replace Archon Stretch with normal stretch, as you are gonna use the third mode since you're abusing CO, and the third mode will give you electricity damage. I don't want to use energy pads though, so I'll go like this, and I have the starting energy to cast my abilities. The other two weapons are basically primary weapons for whatever you want to do, and this is the builds I use on them with primary dexterity on both of them, because if I do need to pull them out to shoot somebody off in the area, I actually can do that because I have dexterity and they will give me the damage. Now the compressor, you know, same thing. Now I do know this has a Riven mode, but this is basically a build for corrosive and cold, and then the radiation is coming from isolated isotope. So if you want to make this but without Riven mode, it's simple. You do this, and then these two combine for corrosive, and you simply add cold. And there you go. Now you have corrosive cold, just like that. I do have a Riven. It gives me the extra status. Sorry, I muted my microphone by accident. It does give me the extra status duration that I need, so I'm gonna use this instead. But yeah, one last thing. You know, this guy can prime for you if you don't like sentinels like the Verglass and a lot of the other sentinels, if you have Noted Loose and, you know, they can just simply kill for you and get you 200 kills per minute. But if you like getting extra loot from, you know, dogs and cats, Panzer Vulpaphyla. Really good. Really cool pet for priming enemies. This is the build. Hunter Recovery is a very underrated mode on this companion. This will absolutely help you survive a lot of situations, especially because you're very squishy on this Wisp build and you will need to rely on your reaction to press to and save yourself from danger. But this is also a helping hand, as it will help you heal up a lot of times. This will heal you for hundreds and maybe even thousands of health per second. And it is something that, since I've tried, I've never really unequipped from my Panzer Vulpaphyla. The clothes themselves have blasts and radiation toxin, and this is because we do have viral on most of our melee weapons, since, you know, viral is the primary element, as well as this guy priming everybody with viral on his own. So in theory, we're looking at a pet that is doing viral, toxin blast / radiation, puncture, impact, magnetic, and wait, that's it actually, no? Yeah, that's it. Slash, I guess. I don't know if I said slash twice. Maybe I said slash twice. Does it matter? No. What matters is, you probably have your answer. Is it worth to actually build these 5 purple Archon Swords to get 15 times critical multiplier on any of your melee weapons? Yes. Absolutely. I have 10 Wisps by now, as you can see, with my main build having over 300 Forma. I can tell you that in the span of half a week that I've created this build, it is one of the most fun builds that I've created in Warframe in a while. So yeah, if you have a main and your main can reach over that 500 energy threshold, which, you know, 90% of the Warframes do nowadays, then do yourself a favor and try this out. I don't know, if you want to build the second one, go ahead, because some people don't want to ruin their main build and they don't want to ruin the Archon Swords or spend the Balla on the main build. Just build the second one. You know? I'm sure you're going to be happy by the end of it and you're going to say it's worth it. Thank you very much for watching another video of mine. I'm sorry this was, you know, structured like this, but I felt like this was by far the best way to structure it. And I will see you on the next one.